Are we finally going to see the prototype in Chapter 5? I'm almost 100% sure we will, and in this video, I'm going to lay out all the proof. Way before this day, back in Chapter 2, we got our first real hint at the prototype's presence in the game, and they even showed us a bit of its claw. That's when a lot of people started thinking, this is it. In Chapter 3, we thought we were finally going to see the prototype, but Mob Entertainment totally threw us off, and instead of a full reveal, they just gave us a little more. But it's important to understand that Chapter 3 was kind of a step towards showing us more about the prototype, and a lot of that was thanks to Poppy.
Senseless slaughter, that's all it really was. They killed everyone. The guilty, the innocent, didn't matter. All that death didn't fix anything. And then, once it was all over, they dragged those corpses down below where they'd never be found. And they ate the bodies to stay alive. The prototype has to die for this, for everything.
And to be real with y'all, I was almost 100% sure we were finally going to see the prototype in Chapter 4. On top of that, the whole situation with Kissy Missy kind of hinted at it too. But then Chapter 4 dropped. And yeah, no prototype again. But here's the thing. Mob did give us even more about him. Now, thanks to his silhouette, we actually have a pretty good idea of what his body looks like. You might be thinking, okay, but how does that mean we're going to see him in Chapter 5? And yeah, that's a fair question. But honestly, all that isn't even the most important part. What really matters is what I'm about to tell you next. Chapter 4 stood out not so much for its horror, but for its lore. And that's a huge deal. A massive part of the game's story was directly or indirectly tied to the relationship between the prototype and Poppy. And in one of the VHS tapes, we got our first real hint at the prototype being in the next chapter. Let's take a listen, and then I'll break down exactly how it all connects.
I didn't want... This wasn't what I thought we were gonna leave. Leave the factory. Not this. All those people. Prototype says we can't leave. Not now, not ever. I hate him. I hate him, and I hate this place, and I hate that he's... right. He explained everything, and he's right. We can't leave. It's too risky. What they did to us, we can't ever let it happen to us or anyone ever again. Doesn't make me feel better about the bodies, though. What he was saying about them. I know there's not really another option. The toys will starve otherwise. They'll die. But it's still disgusting.
This tape keeps giving us more and more details about the prototype's past and his connection with Poppy. We find out that even though Poppy has a super negative view of the prototype now, way back in the day, she actually agreed with him about how ridiculous the idea of leaving Playtime Co. was. And while the rest, you heard it for yourself. So what's really happening here is the devs are dropping stronger and stronger hints that the prototype is finally going to make his big entrance in the next chapter. It's like they're preparing us, making sure that before we meet him, we really dive deep into Playtime Co.'s history, the Hour of Joy, the prototype himself, and Poppy's role in all of it. On top of that, remember our good old pal Ollie from Chapter 3? At first, a lot of people thought he was going to be a positive character, but there were also some who were 100% sure something was off about him. And then in Chapter 4, we didn't just uncover Ollie's secret, we got a massive info dump on the relationship between Poppy and the prototype. That conversation between them, it's crazy important, because honestly, it's the key to everything we're talking about in this video.
You don't need to pretend anymore, Poppy. You don't need to play at being stronger than you are. You can come home.
How much do you know?
Everything.
This isn't right. All those years. Was there ever an Ollie?
Yes, there was. But that was a very long time ago.
What are you going to do with me?
I've got something special in mind.
I prepared it just for you.
And this one,
You will never want to leave.
No. No, no, no. This entire time, you've lied to me!
Only because you've kept
Missing the
point.
I've taken the liberty of retrieving those explosives from the Foundation.
Thanks for collecting them.
those, by the way. I've put them to good use. I admit, though, I'm disappointed.
After all that time in your case, I'd hoped you'd see things
Differently. Don't you understand?
It's always been about you.
And we'll hobby
What we are.
That's not a truth that can be burnt away. No, not when it can mean so much more.
Prototype. Please.
It's time to come home.
Poppy.
It's time to come home.
I can't go back in the case. I can't.
And when you really think about it, everything is literally screaming at us that we're finally about to see the insane but long-awaited prototype in Chapter 5. If his appearance already felt logical after Chapter 3, now it's almost impossible to doubt it. I mean, most of the big secrets have been uncovered, Ollie's truth is out, all of the prototype's allies are dead, and, especially with Huggy making a comeback, the chances of the prototype finally being revealed are higher than ever. Also, let's not forget what Poppy said. She straight up told us that the prototype's lair is inside the Playtime Labs. And if you remember that final scene, the main location of the next chapter is going to be those very same labs that Leith Pierre was talking about at the end. Another insanely important detail, Poppy's escape. Since we know there's no way the prototype's just going to let her go, and since Poppy is super important to the story, there's a huge chance that somewhere in the middle or towards the end of Chapter 5, we'll see Poppy. Only this time, the prototype will be standing right behind her. At this point, there's just too much pointing toward his long-awaited arrival, so all we can do now is sit tight and wait for the next chapter's release, because when it finally drops, we're going to see him at last. And as always, the expected release of the new chapter is going to be at the end of January 2026. But what do y'all think? Are we finally going to see this damn prototype, or is he going to slip away from us again? See you later.